Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, a few years ago, decided to re-up my resume a little bit, so to speak. I have my own business, and part of having your own business is making sure that you constantly update your profile and make sure that it's up to date, so the people that are looking to hire you will have that information, and of course, you can look as good as possible to the people that you want to impress. So I remember as I started to send my resume out, and I was sending it to friends and colleagues first. And the first thing I did was I did this great draft, and believe me, it was great. I loved it. Highlighted everything that I had done in my life, all the good stuff, don't worry. And I sent it out to my friends and colleagues, and I remember asking for their feedback, and what I got back was all of these suggestions. Well, Shawn, you forgot to mention that you had done this, and I take that part out and exchange it with this word, and that word's not just right. And so I took the resume back, the bio, or whatever it was, I took it back and rewrote it, redrafted it, put all the right words in there, sent it back out, and of course, I got all of these accolades back. Shawn, that looks great. That is a fantastic tribute to all of the work that you have done. Go for it. Send this out. This is what people want. The only problem with that was I was lying. Now, I wasn't lying directly. Everything on the bio was absolutely true. I was lying by omission, because what I didn't include on the bio were all of those things throughout the years that I had done that I failed tremendously at. Not just tremendously, I failed at probably the utmost epitome of failure. Right? Have y'all been there before?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so let me give you an example. When I first did public speaking for business, and don't get me wrong, I had been on stage for years doing music stuff and in theater. But when I first got on stage for business, I was going to this small event at the Hamilton North Chamber of Commerce. Now I'm going to give all my secrets away, because you're going to say, hey, do you remember this guy? He was there. This was back in 2009, and they had asked me to come in and do a presentation on social media. And the idea was, how do we use Facebook, Twitter, for our businesses? And in 2009, Facebook was really just getting started. So there were a lot of people who said, well, my nephew knows how to do Facebook, I'll let him do it. And so they would put their nephew in charge of their Facebook account for their business. And of course, their nephew would, post things, about what he did in school. So my job, of course, was to come out and help them a little bit, understand what to do with that. So I spent many, many weeks in preparation. Not quite sure how my wife slept at night, because I would be up literally at 3 a.m. with nothing else on my mind but what do I say to these people so that they think that I know what I'm talking about. Why did they hire me? And I would go over, I would recite it. The night before, I stayed up all night, working on the final touches of the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint was this fantastic representation of all my knowledge, all on a screen that everybody could look at while I talked about social media. I was ready to go. And I walked in around 7 a.m. that morning. I set up the laptop and connected it to the projector to project this magnificent PowerPoint onto the screen, and the projector wouldn't turn on. And my whole life flashed before my eyes. As people started to walk into the room, one by one, I could feel the beads of sweat starting to pour off my face. What am I going to do? Everything I know is in that PowerPoint. Everything I know is on that screen, and if that screen doesn't work, I'm done. I have effectively made a fool out of myself. And then I looked over, and like a glowing light shining down from the heavens was this bullet point list that I had made the night before of each point that was on the PowerPoint that I wanted to make, one by one. And I looked over and I said, can I make copies? And they told me I could. So I went and I ran 25, 30 copies off, whatever it was. And I handed each one of these out to someone that was sitting in a chair. I said, this is what we're talking about today. And I went, as they say, by the seat of my pants. The miraculous thing is I made it. I did not necessarily bomb that, but I thought I was going to bomb it. And the funny thing about that is an omission that's not in my biography, in my resume, so to speak, for my business. Although what that tells you is that I learned a lot of lessons in that moment. I learned things like how to struggle through moments that feel impossible to get through. I learned tenacity. I learned to rely on myself and not other things. And as some of you who have worked with me in the speaking realm will know, I also learned that my bullet point list is my go-to, not anything else. So I learned a lot of things, but I leave it off of my resume. And why? Because I need to impress people. And here lies the utter conflict I have. I tell you the story that I think you want to hear because it's what makes me look the right part. I don't lie to you necessarily. I just leave things out that I may not think are important for you to know. I don't want you to know that, one time I stepped out onto a stage and completely forgot what I was supposed to say and had to stumble through for 2 whole minutes that felt like an eternity. And then walk off the stage and wonder if I would ever be asked back. I don't tell you about that, although that was a very formative time in my learning. I leave those things out, and then I struggle with who am I? Am I actually being authentic to my integrity to what I believe? Because what I believe is to tell you who I am. I wrestled with this again in 2019. I made an intentional decision. I'm walking out of the light here. I made an intentional decision in 2019, January, to focus on a corporate market in my business. And for all of the years prior, I'd worked with a local market, meaning all of the locally owned businesses, the smaller businesses. I felt like I'm ready to make this leap. And so in January of 2019, I let my last contract expire with a local business, and I made this giant leap forward to go into a corporate market. What I didn't anticipate was that it would take a long time. I thought, no, this will be just as easy as it is going to a networking meeting and shaking a hand and making a contract deal. And it wasn't. And it hasn't been. So I found myself in a unique situation. Well, probably not unique. It felt unique. It felt like I was the only one that had ever experienced it. And I needed to do something to buffer the income level. Because things had fallen off the grid that were once there that weren't there anymore. And so I started driving for this great service called Uber. Okay? Yes. I am an Uber driver. Now, here's my dilemma. When I'm in the car with someone, I found it was a great opportunity to find out what they do. If they are in a position that might be someone I want to network with, if they were that type of person, then I would continue on to say, here's what I do, here's my card, give me a call, let's connect, let's talk. I met CEOs, I met all kinds of people. Now, on the flip side of it, my personal friends, people who I had done business with all these years, I didn't want to share that with. Kind of like in that first video. I didn't want them to know that things hadn't went exactly as I had planned and that I was becoming this other person. And so I kind of hid this. Again, challenging my own integrity of what I believe is right, because what I believe is right is to be authentic, to let people know who I am. And I found that those two things started to merge at various places, i.e. when I would meet with someone on an Uber ride, and I would connect with them and say, oh, I know somebody you need to network with. Let me connect you to so-and-so. And then suddenly so-and-so now finds out, because of this connection, oh, Shawn, you've been driving for Uber. Are things not going so well? So it brings us to this place where we start to challenge what it is we believe in. Now, Nancy had given me a couple of ideas for some quotes. And I want to tell you, the one that she originally presented to me, I struggled with a little bit, and I want to tell you why. I'll just leave this with you to think about. You may have seen this. I've seen this in the hallways of schools that I speak at on many occasions. It says, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. And I struggle with that because I think that sometimes necessarily we don't know what is right. And what is right for me may not be right for you. We see that a lot in today's political world. What's right for me may not be right for you. So it's very dependent upon what your definition of integrity and core values and your core beliefs are. And I've struggled with that. I'll wrap it up with this. This is probably one of the most interesting lessons of my life. About 2 or 3 years ago, I created a Facebook profile. It was an alternate profile, so no one would know what my name was. I'm not going to disclose it to you today. You can look me up and see if you can find me. But it had its own little name, had its own little profile picture of a character, and it had a very bold banner in the back that basically told everyone, I don't care what you think. And I went on intentionally to originally to just play in the world of Facebook, anonymously, just see what's out there, see what people are doing. And then I got interested in the political divide that exists. And so I started to interject myself into groups on both sides of the fence, Republican and Democrat. And what I learned there was very fascinating and challenged my own beliefs of myself. I went in there trying to be the Mr. Goodbody. I walked into these groups and listened to the banter back and forth and listened to people call each other names. Both sides, I'm not going to single anybody out. It was both sides equally. So just let's start there. And I listened to name calling. I listened to put downs. I listened to people say things that you would never utter to a single human being in your life. But for some reason, on Facebook, they felt entitled and completely able to do that. And I set out with the mission of logic. I'll rationalize with it. Let's talk through it. Let's see what's really bothering you. Very few people this worked with, by the way. I don't know why. But it worked with very few people. What I learned is that there is a core piece of our humanity that lies in our emotions. And what that means specifically is that when I got in there, I myself couldn't help but getting caught up in some of the things. Even though I knew better, even though I knew my position and knew what I was there wanting to accomplish, I got pulled into some conversations. Some of them were downright mean and hateful. Some of them I got banned for. You can get banned from Facebook. Let me tell you what. And it's a temporary ban, but you can get banned. I saw people that would use a dehumanization technique to separate their own identity from the person that they were talking to so that they could say things that were unimaginable to someone else and feel okay about it. But yet, again, they would never utter in their own day-to-day life if it were a real person standing in front of them. As I challenged my own integrity of who I am and what I believe, I began to realize that what I believe is that love conquers all. And what I did find that was common between all of these people and all of these different groups is that every single one of them was looking for one thing and one thing only: connection. Every single one of them wanted connection with another human being that believed the same thing that they believed and that could help them through the struggle that they were going through in their own mind. We are all tied together. We are all part of God's big world. So where do we go when we know that we're struggling with our own integrity? When we're, as we've went through this whole series, we have looked at what is God. I see God clearly now. I can see clearly now what are the epiphanies that I have, and I can see you clearly now. And today, I can see me clearly now. So as you watch this clip, and you begin to look at yourself and you look at other people around you, I encourage you to think about the words that you say. Do they align with who you are as a person? The actions that you take, do they align with who you are as a person? And when they don't, take that moment to ask yourself, how do I see them through the eyes of God? Thank you.